I see you, love. Okay, we in with it now? If we gonna make this happen? Come on, bruh. Oh, there he is, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
I don't know what happened, bruh.
I don't know, man. Technology tonight. I've been here for like about 15 minutes.
Oh, see, now, this is horrible. Technology is a bitch sometimes, bruh. I apologize for that. But,
Nah, you good, brother.
but at no time did I say anything bad. I was good. I didn't say nothing foul. You can ask that for himself. But hey, man.
Tough skin.
You know, this coming back from the day and age you had to grow up with that tough skin shit. You couldn't be like these soft motherfuckers out here now.
Nah, tough skin, baby boy. How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great because I get to interview a legend like yourself, bro.
Thank you, brother, man. I appreciate you for having me, man.
Man, I appreciate you accepting the invite, bro. So let's go ahead and get into it because to be talking to a legend, you know, and all bullshit to the side, I always say a legend because, you know, Jeff from BTP Media always bring me legends. But tonight he has brought me one of the true legends because I consider that because you are one of the founders of this culture that we in. Not saying you like the beginning, but you was back when the shit was hot.
Man, I appreciate you saying that, man. I appreciate it.
Because, you know, I'm scared.
By the way, I want to also...
Go ahead.
Also, by the way, I want to shout out Sacramento. I want to shout out the whole state of California.
Let's say that.
What a beautiful place. What a beautiful place. I've been many a times and enjoyed myself while I was there.
Oh, you got to come back.
I want to also shout out my man AJ Rock that's online. I know he's online live right now. So, hey, shout out, brother.
AJ and I've been talking the whole time. He got on time, and we've been chopping it up, going back and forth. I've been making him laugh every now and then too.
Right.
But
that kind of let you know what the relationship is. It's still, you know, here we go. We met when we was 5 years old. I was 5 and he was 8.
Damn.
And I'm 51, and as he would say to me tonight about 10 minutes ago, don't put 55 on me until 2 weeks. So when everybody in the world, J.V.C. Force fans, in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, you gonna put that
big... will be AJ Rock's 55th birthday. Ooh. And we've been doing this since we've been kids. So I want to shout out to him because as you can see how real the relationship is, he'll still hold me down at 11 o'clock at night, East Coast time. So, my brother.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And what a blessing to be able to see in 2 weeks, that little number's 5'5". So, as I said before, you came up in the game when it was about some money. You had to want some money. I keep telling people, like, it's cool to love some things and want to do it for the love, but if you ain't making $1 at it, why are you really at it? Just saying. But you came up in the game where the money started becoming a major factor in the game because you were there during the time of Big Daddy Kane. You had yourselves, your group, the J.V.C. Force. And then you came from a place where, for a while, hip-hop wasn't really a place that it came from. You came from, as y'all was selling it, Strong Island, baby. How was it coming from a place that it wasn't known for its hip-hop to come out and be a factor in this game called hip-hop?
Well, again, back then, Long Island was like everywhere. You know, California suffered that same thing.
Yes, we did.
You know, even though we was right next to the 5 boroughs, you know, we were a place that had houses. You know, we had suburban life. You know, things looked nice and we had water around us. So it couldn't be imagined back then that, you know, this type of lifestyle could turn around and tell the story of hip-hop. You know, hip-hop was based on, like, you know, a lot of graffiti projects and stuff. And Long Island, like I said, was slept on. But, again, it was that melting pot to where a lot of parents from the boroughs and stuff, you know, when they wanted to get out of Brooklyn and the Bronx and places like that, you know, and they went to purchase, they say, you know, we're going to Long Island. And it was like that second step of life. Okay. So coming from out there, it was different, but we had to fight the same way as everybody else to be heard because, again, it wasn't a Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan,
right,
or Queens.
right.
So we had to fight to be heard. So coming from Long Island, a lot of times when we took our music to record labels, what they said to us was, you know, you guys are dope. Or when we took it to management companies back then, they said, you know, you guys are dope, but we don't know how we would market you coming from Long Island.
Okay.
You know, our initial thought was always like, well, you know, what do you mean? You know, but slowly as time went on, we came to realize that it wasn't so much about what somebody else couldn't do, but it was going to be about what you could do for yourself. Okay. And I think it started to make a big focus on J.V.C. to where we only primarily focused on showing people that coming from where we came from, we could produce the heat. When we made Strong Island, we felt like we had something big. We also had an album that had other songs coming after it, and we were like, okay, we know these songs are good. It got a different sound. Mm-hmm. But the competitive nature to, you know, compete with the city.
Right.
You know, we had that in us also, and we felt like it wasn't that we were battling the city, because that wasn't what it was. The city was our influence. That's all we had to go according to.
Right.
But living in Long Island again, we listened to different kinds of music.
Okay.
We listened to all sorts of music. So when the group started coming out of Long Island, making these different sorts of albums, different things were sampled. It wasn't just the breaks and stuff. It was soft rock and, you know, different things that people got a chance to experience. And slowly but surely, as we were fortunate to have the anthem song, Long Island was slowly developing a whole different sound of its own. Right. And again, I'm from Long Island. That's what I claim. You know, I claim Central Islip. So I arguably tell anyone, Long Island had the most groups to come out in the golden age of hip hop.
That's actual facts.
The sound was very unique. Long Island produced the most albums perhaps that you could listen to from beginning to end. Between 86 or 85, all the way up until about 94 to 95.
Okay.
And again, you know, it was, but you also have to realize within that time is that a lot of people that was from the boroughs, they brought their kids out there. So, you know, people just, you know, things followed, and fortunately through the influence of hip hop and people of different colors being able to be a part of this thing that we call our lifestyle, you know, it grew. You know, and hip hop is one of those factors, again, not just coming from J.V.C. Force, but listening to a lot of the groups in Long Island and giving credit to them groups. You know, a lot of songs came back into rotation, not only based on hip hop from everywhere, but a lot of groups from Long Island put out songs, and it was later found to be that, like, a lot of those artists that made those original songs, they were also from Long Island. So hip hop got big, and even through where we came from, a sample friendly era, it brought a lot of the old school artists back.
Okay.
It did its thing. You know, and that's like I say, arguably Long Island had a big part in that, because we sampled a lot of the music that people didn't want to touch back then. But it wasn't the break beats and stuff like that. It was albums. We listened to music.
That's what made you guys. That's what made you great, though. That's what made you so great, because you weren't doing the norm. You guys were willing to step out and try something new, and you made it sound fantastic.
Yeah, sir. Thank you, man. That's what made the Forcefield album, truthfully.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Doing Damage album, we made that album. And like I tell people all the time, me and AJ, we rapped a lot. you know, we practiced a lot, and we had a lot of routines. And just like every other group from Long Island, when you look at the golden era of hip hop, right? You say, why is it the golden era? Because most of those routines and those songs that people put out on those first albums is the stuff that they had all their life. So again, us coming through that sample-friendly area, being able to pick any song that we wanted and have the hottest beats and these lyrics that we polished all our life. It was no wonder why, like, every group back then, their first album was the best album they ever made, that you could listen to song after song. As hip-hop started moving on, the second and the third albums, it might have had 3 or 4 songs on it. Okay. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that first, it's a lot to credit to that within hip hop. And you know, we focused on that heavy. You know, J.V.C. Force, we only wanted to put out beats.
Okay.
That's all we was doing, listening to beats, writing rhymes, going through these routines. So as the years went by, me and AJ growing up, we spent so much time spitting these lyrics. No J.V.C. song ever took more than like 3.5 to 4 hours to record and finished.
Damn.
Because it wasn't because the first album we did, when we did Doing Damage, the label gave us all creative control.
That's nice.
We were going to the studio, get Kurt in there, sample up the music with the legendary Charlie Murata.
Okay.
Try some things. When Charlie Murata was in the studio, and I'll tell you a story, when we were doing the Doing Damage album, we were doing Damage, and we decided that we were going to rock the Louie Louie with the beat underneath, and we were going to rap to it. And it was going to start to come in with a fast fusion kind of thing. And me and AJ had already started going through the rhymes and stuff. When we were doing that song was possibly going to be an album cut.
Okay.
It's when the legendary, again, Charlie Murata got into it, and he started to run the effects on the chorus and start to put the things like, and we start to, oh, wow, this is sounding like a motion picture now. And that's where the album started to be decided it would be called Doing Damage and stuff. You know, while we were in the studio, like I said, we had all creative control of everything we were doing. So all we wanted to do was focus on music, and all we cared about was we're going to play on the radio and we're going to go on the road. Videos, doing a whole bunch of stuff. People ask all the time why there's not a lot of J.V.C. footage, or why there's not a lot of pictures and the same thing. We weren't that kind of group. You know, we were friends first and foremost growing up, and we grew up all within 3 blocks from each other.
Okay.
So it was a lot of things when it came to the music business, we wouldn't tell the world because it was personal to us. And there was things we was going through that we leaned on only each other. And, you know, we were as real as every other group, but the timing and the friendship, like really genuinely coming up from childhood. I mean, seeing Roman Old English Roman letters and buying the sweatshirts together with the, you know, the old school stuff.
Say that there.
Name belt buckles.
Oh.
You know, just me and AJ, we used to buy matching Vasco suits.
Wow.
And wear like lottos and change up our colors and all kind of stuff. And, you know, just, I mean, me and that man go back as far as like, you know, jocks and Olympians.
Oh my
Tom
God.
McCann, baby.
Oh my God, you taking it way back. Way back.
For us as a group, it was always more of it was a relationship that we was going to have respect for, no matter what was going to go on. It was always understood from the beginning that no matter where we went, no matter whatever differences we had, we would not, you know, share those differences. And as men, you know, we can differ, we can move our own ways, we can do different things. But one thing we can't do is, like, you know, talk about, you know, the differences that we have.
Be
But
on,
we
be on some weak shit.
Right.
So
J.V.C. is different.
yeah, I applaud y'all for that because it's not a lot of cats who have that. Especially these days, everybody want to air out somebody's business just to make some noise for themselves. But in the era then,
Like
you can get your head knocked off for real. Back then, it was no social media safety. But you had mentioned how you guys went in and had the music together. Compare a studio to then to a studio now. Like, y'all couldn't play around. You had to have it, like your man said, I think it was AJ said, you had it mapped out before you went in there because it wasn't no playtime because that shit wasn't cheap. It wasn't no laptop to sit at home in the bathroom and in the closet and be able to record. You had to go to a real studio and actually have your shit right before you got into the booth.
You know, that question right there that you asked right here is one of the most unique questions that I've done about like 5-6 interviews in the last, I want to say 4 weeks.
Okay.
And that's one of the most unique questions that somebody asked me. And I'm going to turn around and I'm going to answer that question.
Say that there. I'll take that compliment.
When we recorded back in the days, for anybody that knows that live in Long Island, the legendary Charlie Murata studio was on the top in the attic of his daddy's house.
Damn. I did not know that.
So if you can imagine getting up into an attic, when you got up there, it was like sitting room, and it was mostly equipment, but a couple of seats that you could sit in, but equipment and everything going all around the room with these two big massive speakers like sitting up in front of you, right?
Boy, it got hot up there.
We got up there, right? And in the beginning, you know, the whole aura of everything was, you know, this is like the hottest studio in Long Island. Back then, you know, things got around and people, you know, you found out what was going on. Different groups was recording in places, and this was a big hot studio to record at. So when we got there, you know, of course, like seeing studios in the city and stuff, and, you know, you walking through, you know, the big doors with like, you know, and you're in this big office space and stuff, and we pull up at a house. Back then you didn't have no GPS, so, you know, I'm in the passenger side, you know, Kurt driving, you know, and I'm reading the directions, you know what I mean? And we get there finally, and we pull up in a residential neighborhood.
Wow.
We go to our front door, ring the doorbell, and some Italians open the door. Murata. And then all of a sudden, it's this hip, long-haired guy wearing Timberlands that know everything about hip-hop because he done made an 80s dance hit.
Damn.
Yes. So now he's in hip-hop. And mind you now, the name Charlie Murata, right, when you talk Long Island hip-hop, you're talking about a lot of names that worked out of that studio.
Okay.
Charlie Murata, you know, you're talking about a lot of groups that worked out of that studio.
Okay.
In golden age hip hop, just about. This man got about like 45, 50 plaques on his wall alone.
Ooh, nice.
You Google him. His name is Charlie Murata. He's the legendary engineer. His sound, his studio is probably the most unput together of them all professionally.
Okay.
But the sound was ridiculous. Now, when we was recording Doing Damage album, you know, one of the big factors of a machine, you know, we had the bass from the Juno keyboard. We recorded a lot of that stuff and dropped it. Charlie was one of the first dudes on Long Island to bring in like the Emax EMU. Had a lot of sample time. It was unheard of in hip hop.
Right.
But most of all, when you turn around and you talk about recording an album like Doing Damage and a lot of the albums from coming out of Long Island, like back in them days, Charlie had the ability. He was one of the only engineers that knew how to kind of cut the tape and put a pencil on it and run it all the way across the room, put it on the doorknob. And that's when this whole dan, because back then, you know, there was no sampling machines. It was just, you had to know how to cut the tape. And if you cut enough, you could loop it around. And that's the first person I heard use the term looping. And looping wasn't going through the machine digital like the young people know. It was an analog tape, preferably on about 2-inch. and it was going around and around and around, and it was just creating the sound. And it was having to do that and do that and do that for 6 minutes until it went into the machine that he was recording at the time. And that's when you laid the structure of the beat, and then you had it on track one. So we came through a lot of analog days, but, you know, the point that I make is that the sounds that came out of Strong Island, we delivered lyrics and stuff like that, but there's a lot of things that impacted that song, like the mix, the compressions, the echoes on the... And it was a very simple song, but the way that man had his skills, I say all of this to say, he was a big instrumental factor in this joint being beefed up and sounding the way it sounded.
Okay. That's what's up. Okay, so coming up in the house that Mr. Marauder built, you dropped this album, you're getting lightweight fame. Did y'all get to feeling yourselves like, we really did this, we need to go across the waters and hang with the big dogs? Or were y'all like, we cool, let's go ahead and let the work do itself, we'll sit back here on the island and chill?
No, it was, in the beginning, what happened to start J.V.C. Force off, it really started as me and Kurt.
Okay.
It started as like a high school venture, beating on the tables. Big shouts out to all the people from Central Islip, because the talent that came out of that school alone, you know, it's like, you know, a lot of people back then was battle worthy. We started off, and as we started off and we started making music, Kurt and I, as Kurt and I and AJ started to become more of a J.V.C., there was already a demo that was recorded coming out of the, you know, when you're in high school, you go on a senior trip.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, we went to a place called Six Flags, and it was in New Jersey. And they had a little recording booth in there, more or less like karaoke-ish kind of thing. And, you know, they didn't have no real hip-hop beats in there, so it was like, you know, my man was a beatbox. He came in and beatboxed, and I spit the lyrics.
Okay.
And the idea of we're graduating now, you know, you put this thing, make 20 copies of it with the cassette deck, make 20 copies, put it in all thing, send it to all the labels. So B-Boy Records calls one day and they say, you know, we love this demo and we want to talk to y'all, right? We went down and talked to them. We started to make the conversation about the new school, because that's what the whole freestyle was, the new school.
Right.
And they were looking for a B-side to the new school. And, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, we can get a deal. You know, I listen to a lot of music. So when I listened to the new school, I felt like, hey, they offering us a single and nobody else did. So, you know what I'm saying, we'll do a single. But I didn't really ever think, New School is perhaps my least favorite song that we did on the Doing Damage album.
Really?
But we end up getting signed for it, right?
Yeah.
And when we get signed for it now, they say, what's going to be the B-side? So the conversation for Strong Island comes about. And we start to spit these lyrics. And I forgot 100% how it came about, but I think it was that we had a meeting and we eventually had the lyrics, but not the beat. And we went back to Long Island, and we were supposed to come up with this concept. And we were sitting down at my house, I know that for fact. And Kurt, AJ, and I, we were talking. And the conversation came about the Easiest Way to Fall and the Band of Gold album. And my dad, which was a big avid music collector, he pulled it out. So when we got it, that's when we took it to the studio. Now, unlike going down and talking to the label about the new school, which was initially supposed to be the A-side, when we went to the studio, when we recorded Strong Island, one thing that I remembered is that we went to the studio and we brought people with us. We went to record the song. By the time we finished the song, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And we were listening to the final mix. We had some good old school liquor in the studio, right? We had some, Malibu.
Ooh.
Frugenet champagne. You know, the black bottle, that's the
Yeah.
Frugenet.
That's old shit.
And back then, we was real cool. We always had like some Guinness stouts, and we liked. So we was in the studio, right? And it's like we had this money with us, right? Because the label now, they signed the new school, so they gave us some money. So we was in the studio, and we had about 4 girls in the studio, and
y'all was doing real big.
We had the champagne. You know what it was? And we had Baileys, and we had peach schnapps.
Damn.
And when we listened to the final mix, it was like everybody was quiet, and the room was calm. We was drinking, and we ordered food and stuff, and had food in there. Everybody was eating and chilling, and we were cracking jokes. And when we sat down and we listened to the final mix, and Charlie Murata put it on the big speakers, and it just finally came through as the final, because we mastered it. We mastered the demo, and it came through like the dan, 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 and we just sat back, and we were like, and for like 6 minutes, we were like, and as soon as it went off, we're like, you gotta play that again. And the second time it played, we started throwing money in the air.
Oh,
the money we had, because it was like it was this kind of, it was this feeling, and we wasn't trying to be like crazy or funny or nothing, but we was like, this is what we weren't in it for the money. We was like, I don't know how this feels, but we got a record deal, and this record don't feel like what's on the radio right now.
Right.
Like a kind of sensation came through that I think to all of us, we fought for years as any other artist to get something as big as that hit again.
Okay.
But that feeling came by 2 more times in the form of making the song Intro to Dance for the Forcefield album.
Okay.
Because it was a Strong Island remix.
Right.
And when we did Big Tracks, which many, again, people don't know, Big Tracks was on Big Beat Records when we finally made it to the major label. The executive producer of that brought us in, and the executive producer of the record Big Tracks for Big Beat Records is Stretch Armstrong.
Now, see, you saying names that a lot of cats ain't gonna recognize, but that's a big name back in them days. That's a big name today. While you bullshitting, that's a big name today. Those who in hip hop who know better, they know better.
Right. So, doing the Forcefield album was cool. Like I was going back to early in the interview. The Forcefield album was more or less an album that was like, we said, why does the game have to have parameters? We grew up on Luther Vandross.
Yes, Lord.
We grew up on Whitney Houston. So why can't we put together dun 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 and then have the whoa, whoa, whoa? Or why can't we take Cat Stevens on a joint like Stop and Listen? Why can't we have a joint like Intro to Dance that just don't have a chorus?
Okay.
I think I go through the J.V.C. joints after Intro to Dance. Why don't we have the joint like, why don't we sample the Muppets and Sesame Street, and why don't we take risk, and why don't we break the rules?
For facts.
I was writing a lot, but this was the conversations and the thought process of the groups.
Okay.
People have to realize we're a group that came from, we were 8 years old. I remember specifically the day that all of the guys on the block, Rod C., Derek Magwood, Sprats, Naquan Busby, AJ, myself. I remember the years back in the days that we ran home because 7:30 Graffiti Rock was airing the first episode. It was going to be the first time that hip-hop had like a show like Dance Fever.
Right.
All we had was like Solid Gold and Soul Train. We didn't have nothing for hip-hop.
Nothing.
So when Graffiti Rock was coming on, Run DMC was getting ready to battle the Treacherous 3. We was running home. This is the world of what we call the hip-hop lifestyle. But again, I might be taking your interview like a little off drift tonight.
No, this is
the thing that's going on is that we getting to talk,
man.
just to talk.
It's your show.
It's a lot of things.
This is your show. I'm learning so much.
No, well, it's a lot of people that we learned from. Right. You know, there were dudes back in the days, big crews that came down the block and they had their big radio.
Mm-hmm.
And bumping their tape with the dude with, like, you know, the shell top Adidas and the Kango and the chain on and the nameplate. Listening, you hear the DJ on it, the MC's going, he cuts flow, and you like, oh, one day that's gonna be me, you know. But then, you know, you start to see things go on, you know, and you find yourself one day in that position, and you see yourself and you say, you know, people look at me as, people look at J.V.C. as a group that was innovative in the game. But again, there was a lot of influence all through hip-hop that everybody came from. And a lot of our influence was a lot of, like, local talent. And don't get me wrong, you know, we ran with listening to the crews that came from the cities and stuff like that. But, you know, again, Long Island had everything else that was going on. You know, we had the big crews and stuff. We had block parties. We had everything.
Okay.
So, you know, with me and AJ, like I say, you know, growing up at a young age, I think it was the camaraderie, because again, this is not just some guy that I turned around and I made records with growing up and stuff. You know, it's you know, you are my friend and you have the ability to just walk into my house and my mom's is gonna be like, AJ, stuff like that, you know, and
real family.
It's that type of stuff. And you know, we that's the life we lived, and we didn't know anything different, and that's J.V.C. for us.
Okay.
We were a lot different than other groups. What people don't understand is when other groups came out and they did the things that they did and they treated this thing like a business, we had no choice but to treat it as a friendship because our parents knew each other.
Right. Okay,
if we went down, we were all going down.
That's why it should be.
So
that puts a real theory behind it.
Our sisters. AJ has one sister. I have one sister. Kurt has one sister. So the sisters know each other. And this is where things come about. Like when you listen to the Doing Damage album and the song Doing Damage, you hear things like, and the Branch Ave Posse, you understand? The crew, our friends, everybody got up on Branch Avenue, but all the little sisters, and AJ's sister, my sister, we'd be on a tour or something like that, and our sisters done turned around and nagged all our stuff that came from the label, so we never got to take pictures in the fresh clothes. Our sisters took it all. Big shouts out Keisha and Nicole.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, so we didn't build the sound. We got this hit. We got hits. We got real heat. So who decided it was time to go, like, do shows? Because through your Instagram, when I'm seeing you take pictures with other superstars in the beginning of hip hop, when y'all was coming up in the game, I mean, was it somebody who y'all wanted to, one day we gonna perform with such and such, and that's when we gonna know we really own, because we pushing the same line that this artist is pushing. Who was that artist to you guys? Who did y'all grow up like wanting to be like?
The Cold Crush Brothers.
Say that.
Because I'm gonna tell you something, right? We went, and a couple of the Cold Crush Brothers was on the B-Boy records. KG was on there, and he was running with Tony Tone, and through big influence. And I'll tell you a specific story. Like, you know, we went to do a show out in, like, Springfield, Mass, and back then on B-Boy Records, you know, the tour bus was a van, a pillow van. So we was all in the van, and we got up to Massachusetts, and, you know, the whole thing of, like, growing up in the Cold Crush personally is my favorite group of all times.
Okay.
I don't care that they didn't make a bunch of records and stuff, but the innovativeness and the way they got down, like, they was crazy. They my favorite group. Everybody knows that about me, that knows me. But to get out into Massachusetts and, you know, we're out there behind stage and we're like, you know, you get the information back then, you know, this is who's going out now. And we don't know when we're going out, but the first group is starting to go out. And then the room is emptying sort of, kind of, with the people who hasn't performed. We get to the point now and of admiring the Cold Crush Brothers for all of those years just to be on the road with them. I remember specifically on the one show in Massachusetts, it was down to the two of us, and it was time for J.V.C. or the Cold Crush to go out. And I remember that we said, all right, guys, it's time for us to go out. We're going to go out. Let's do this show. You remember, like, let's do what we, you know what I mean? Right. And the promoter came and said, nah, the Cold Crush going out. J.V.C. is like the opening act.
Wow.
And I remember, I think me and A standing there like, nah, we're not supposed to be like, we're supposed to be, we open, we're going to open for the Cold Crush, you know? And this, again, is where you have a song that is of a magnitude that it got so big that everybody embraced it. It wasn't like a just one place kind of song. But whereas our respect in hip hop between us, we're like, nah, there's no way that the Cold Crush is going before us. And not even for one member or two members being in it, we was just like, that's just the Cold Crush. This is hip hop and we're on the South Bronx label. We didn't understand the demographics of the game and stuff, but they called for the Cold Crush, and then J.V.C. was the opening act. So, I'm sorry, the closing act. So it was almost one of those things where it was like at that time you start to realize what it is, but you know, you still in your heart, you realize like, you know, they opened doors for us. We wouldn't be there without them, because a lot of the J.V.C. force, people say, you guys as a group were so in the pocket. But it's the influence of the Cold Crush and the routines. When you talk about in the pocket, I don't think I got J.V.C. or me and AJ got nowhere near in the pocket as the Cold Crush did.
Right.
This was four men sounding like one, harmonizing with two DJs. And what we fought to create was two men to sound like four. That's why the lyrics come up on one song that says, J.V.C. consists of two, but harmonizes like four. It's on one of the lyrics. J.V.C. consists of two, but harmonizes like four.
Right.
And it's the reference to, it's two of us, but the intention is to sound like the Cold Crush, because boy,
Facts.
if I can't sing every lyric. And it's part of what makes up the game. It's nowhere in my life. When I moved to Long Island, it was the most strange thing because it looked so clean. Like graffiti was always art to me. And when I met AJ, he was older than me, so he was a graffiti artist and he was very bold. He, like, you know how you would have like a storefront? Not a storefront, but like the side of a whole store, like a half a block long.
Right.
We woke up one morning and he turned around and like he tagged like the whole entire thing in the middle of the night. So to me again now, like I said, you know what, like I like this. And we all came from good families. But the truth of the matter is that growing up, we were some miserable little, I don't know what it's on your show, but you know what it was.
You can curse all you want to here, bro. Like I said, it's your show. Yeah.
His mother used to drive home from work and be like, did you do that to that store? We wouldn't feel shit. And then I remember times like I'd be like, you know what? Well, we started rapping and we were just rapping. And then we then started figuring out in life like, hey, I mean, I remember when I was in Brooklyn, like I used to go get malt duck. I bought a malt duck and I bought a Romo 007 knife when I was like 6 years old, like the one with the little,
yeah, the little butterfly knife.
About this long, about a foot long.
Damn.
And I could buy malt duck in Brooklyn and all, but when I got to Long Island, I was like, I couldn't buy a Colt 45. So, AJ knew how to like stand in front of the store and get people to buy stuff.
Okay.
So I was like, the years went on, and as we got the beer, we would rap, and we walked up. It would be nighttime, and we came through the era as kids to where our parents would cook, and we'd sneak out and go to Burger King and get in trouble for going to eat out when our parents cooked. But we was on a roll. Like, it was about 6 of us, 7 of us. We put together, get about $3 and have about $3 worth of Burger King on the table, and 6 dudes eat.
Damn.
We came from the time where, like, a party paid $75 and, like, they had 12 people that went with you. So all y'all was doing on the block was drinking.
Oh, that's hilarious.
This is our life. I mean, people, listen, you get rappers on your show, right?
Yes.
And they talk about what they did in their rap career and life.
Mm-hmm.
Your rap career was like, yeah, I get it. J.V.C. did 30 years. But I'll tell you, in order for us to have done 33 years right now, there was about 20 that followed before it that made up the fact that we could still be here to this day. And I really don't give J.V.C. interviews to the point now where I'll answer the questions if you ask me, but I talk about who he was. I tend to try to be different. I mean, we had a lot of fun growing up, all of us.
Okay. Well, now we're seeing a lot of originators and pioneers and legends come back and do music. Are we going to be seeing a J.V.C. Force comeback album? Just asking.
We did some albums. There was a full album that was recorded after the big tracks.
Okay.
We did a lot of stuff. People always say that it was supposed to be the big tracks album and da 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 da. We had a title for that album and everything else, and we had a full album recorded, and we recorded it collectively.
Okay.
We did license it to Chop Herring Records down in overseas. We did license 2 EPs based on some of the stuff that was on there, but there's still some J.V.C. stuff that I have sitting around that haven't never been released and heard, and just hoping one day that somebody would pick up on one of these interviews and pretty much decide that they want to do something respectable. Because like I said, one thing about J.V.C. is that we don't just toss the stuff around. When we did Strong Island,
mm-hmm.
we realized again that the competition was thick around Long Island, and there was a lot of talent coming out from Long Island. Being fortunate to have the album, you also have to make decisions in regards to knowing when to stop in the game, and a lot of reasons why, again, we stopped when we got to the point of making big tracks is because hip-hop conformed to a time, and I feel as though we're one of the only groups that turned around and said, hey, you know what? It's time to just stop.
Okay.
As opposed to you turning around and telling us, well, so-and-so's a hot producer and this is what he's putting out now. We're like, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about, because the only person that ever sampled for the group and really pulled out the samples was like Kurt. And, like I said, we met with groups and we met with big time producers along the way. But for them to come to our house again with like certain samples, and we're like, what else is in that? Like, he just came and asked for $4,000 or $5,000, and again, here goes, he's playing substitution. Kurt, at least back in them days, like I said in a past interview, had the logic to say, why should we pay somebody as a group to sample something? It's just a sample. So we did a lot, and that's who we are. That's J.V.C. is just who J.V.C. is. We went against the grain. We came out of the game. Again, all of these years later, I realized that the fans felt as though, not the fans, but the family felt as though you guys just went away one day and just didn't make no more albums. But the thing is that it was a, how dare you tell us who we should be?
Right.
And I love hip hop, but I ain't no slave, and my group ain't no slave, and nobody I roll with in that group was no slave. So collectively, to step away, it was heartbreaking, but what we was being asked to make, because what we were being asked to make, it wasn't considered to us to be hip hop, and it certainly wasn't representing what we felt like what was the standard of Long Island. We still had somewhere to represent. So the decision was made to step away with the platinum credibility in the streets from Strong Island, as opposed to just wear it out and be known as a group that went away with some borderline kind of...
Some fuckery. Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
We were going to go out with something. You was catching us with big tracks. You was catching us with that, you know what I'm saying, Red Alert, Rock the House sound. And every genre, even going into that song and going back and forth, and you hearing the Muppets in that song, that wah, 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 that's the Muppets, and the fusion of the big tracks. Dun, 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 dun. It's in the mind of J.V.C, it was like, dude, don't just play the piano and be like, dun, 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 dun. It needs to be, and it's just in the mind, it's almost like the mind getting ready to explode, like seeing the devil with hip hop. And you know what you want to hear, but I'm as an MC in the studio driving my DJ to nod, dude. You're tapping it. I need you to bang it. It's like this thing needs to be like, yo, dude, this thing needs to. And this is the mentality of J.V.C now. And Big Tracks again was perhaps the most subtle song we made on that third album, which was To Be.
Okay.
We were getting ready to go very, very, very hard, but the labels now became conforming to what the radio wanted, and we weren't going to be that group, and we pieced it out.
Right. Now, y'all done had all these great hits, all these great people involved. You made a decision to be like, I'm not finna do the bullshit they want to do. What did hip-hop open for you as a person after the music?
Well, as a person after the music with hip-hop, what it did basically was it gave me the opportunity to really, to be honest with you, man, like, sorry, hey, give me a second. Let me reposition. Hold on one second.
All right, take your time.
Give me 1 second.
AJ, stop laughing at him.
Hold on, fam. I got you. We back?
Yep, we back.
So, yeah, basically what hip-hop allowed me to do was take a look at things. Some of the things that I've seen in hip-hop, I had realized that speaking with AJ and speaking with Kurt and stuff like that, you know, we were going to go off on our own different directions, but there were certain things that we were going to have to do to preserve the legacy of a group like ourselves. Again, we hadn't done as much as everybody else had did, but we had stuff that was just as important. So some of the things that we started to turn around and decide to do was basically sit back and not do as much, because we didn't want to spread ourselves super, super thin. As we started approaching the 20-year anniversary, we were proud at that point when we did a big 20-year anniversary. We didn't do so much a big 25-year anniversary. When we hit the 30, we did some things. But right now we're at 33, and as men now, what we're ready to do is take out the things that the world hasn't seen. There's a whole lot of J.V.C. that personally, pictures and photos, we've deliberately put the same thing out as times went on and the internet went and became more precedent, everything you would put out or you would post a picture would go up on Google. It would end up somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that, back then and even now, as we all discuss, or as AJ and I discuss more so, we didn't put out to the world because one day there would be a time that the world would need to hear a story and they would want to see something other than what they've already seen. So we have a lot of stuff that, we're doing. AJ right now, he does Black Westchester, pretty big publication that handles a lot of the political issues in Westchester County. Always proud of him for that because, my brother's always had this niche for journalism.
Okay.
Myself, I do an audio event, type of company and stuff called the Get Down Lounge. I work with a clothing company brand, which one of the joints I have on now, Slangsmith, getting around and stuff like that. J.V.C. Force, we got the J.V.C. Force by B page coming where you can be able to you'll have the store and you'll be able to talk to us and, catch all the past interviews like yourself. And also I have company I'm working with called G Lalon Media that also does my video work and pictorial work and stuff like that. But like I say, overall, just both of us, we just try to work and do what we need to do, and within what we're doing, just pretty much try to touch the younger generation, or even people from our home city that have things going on, and just try to put our name behind stuff and keep Black business going.
Okay.
But like I said, with AJ, Black Westchester is a pretty big publication and stuff, and they deal with a lot of the political factors and the politicians and stuff like that in Westchester County and Mount Vernon. And so, we're trying to make a difference, but again, just trying to humbly do it. We're not that group that's going to be all over the place talking about this and that, but mostly, we reach out to the people and we try to stay in touch, and for those that know us, they know we down to earth and we will hit the street. So
that's incredibly big of you guys to be able to still touch the public and reach back to the kids. And you never really hear about artists themselves really getting. We have a few artists that really get into the political side. We got Fab out here in the Bay. Pretty much he's gonna be the mayor here pretty soon. But you got Big Mike. You got artists that really get into the political. So it's really good to hear that another artist themselves is really touching the politics in their area, let alone the politics that's going on in the world today, because it's crazy as hell what's going on these days. So I'm sure he's wrote a lot about it.
Yes, sir.
But
salute to Jeff Kwan, because I see him on the check-in.
Oh yeah, Hefe is the man. I keep trying to tell cats.
Hey, big dog, I got something else for you next week.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Actually, not even next week, this week.
Say that there.
But big shout out to the whole group. You know what I'm saying? I got nothing but love for y'all, man. Y'all doing incredible things, man. It's a pleasure to really turn around and be up here with y'all and just have a conversation. Like I said, what I'm trying to do these days, and like I said, I didn't never mean to, maybe, I know there's probably a lot of questions that you wanted to ask and stuff like that.
We can have you back, bruh.
People ask questions for almost 30 years and stuff, but the conversations again is what's valuable, because one thing I try to encourage other artists to do is, you can make a lifetime of telling the story of who you was as an artist, but what made you?
Right.
And again, within us as J.V.C. Force, a big factor of you getting anything about us is that, needing to know what made us. And you wouldn't understand why you wouldn't get the questions that you will want unless you take the time to understand and want to know who we were. And that would tell you why we have so much respect for each other. And we, even though we, have our own ways of thinking and we do different things and stuff like that. And, like I said, even with Kurt, doing the things with D&D and different things like that. And you know, everybody's been in the game. It's just, you know, we're different men.
Right.
You know, hip hop has made all of us differently.
That's what's so great about hip hop, though.
Right.
Because it takes differences and it makes something great.
I feel more of a fan than a businessman.
Okay.
So when people come up to me and they say, "Yo, B, spit a lyric," it's no thing to me to turn around and really, like, you know, just do something, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, like I say, I have a love for hip hop, you know, and that's what it's all about. I don't want to be that artist that, you know, my people have bought my records for 30 years and all kind of stuff, and they can't talk to me. And anybody out there in the game know me and know, like, if you reach out to me on anything, but I have a straight conversation with you. I'm just that dude. Like, I'm no better than anybody else.
Well,
maybe I see the game. Maybe I see the game a little more advanced than other artists.
Right.
Maybe I've been fortunate to have a record deal. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, nothing would be in place without the people. And
right.
The people is what turned around and made Strong Island turn around and be the song it is and the anthem it is. And for everybody that feels proud that finally at that time, you know, Long Island had something that, you know, they could call their own, or we could call ourselves something other and be recognized.
Right.
You know, the thing is that you don't have to thank J.V.C. Force. You need to thank yourself, because again, 30 years is a long time. To say that, hey, this song still sounds fresh when it plays on my radio. It was y'all who turned around and like made it do what it do. So, you know, we're extra thankful, and you know, we love every one of y'all. And don't think at this age we can't hit that stage and have lyrics.
I'm waiting to see it. I'll be the first one there. I ain't playing. But I just want to say thank you, man, for...
Somebody knows somebody in California and want to turn around and book 2 Ella. Somebody got drug money and want to go ahead and book 2 tickets for J.V.C. for us to come up there and tear some shit up for 20 minutes.
Yeah, some cats might still have some of that EBT money. It's crazy.
But hope they looking, because we ain't free.
I heard the fuck out of that.
We reasonable.
There it is there. Hey, man, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving me this opportunity to sit down and talk with you. Shout out to Slang Smith, slangsmith.com for the clothing wear. I want to go ahead and shout out to AJ Rock. I want to really tune in with blackwestchester.com, because it's crazy about the politics. Somebody told me I need to start talking about that. But, you know, shout out to my one of my sponsors, Olive Oak Magazine. Shout out Kid Mossy. And shout out to the boy Hefe, as I call him, Jeff. That's Hefe to me. But if people want to get in touch with you, if somebody still got some of that EBT card money and they want y'all to come out, man, how do they get a hold of you and, you know, give us your social media?
That's right. The rider say government cheese.
Say that there. Say that there. Go ahead and
Big
give...
square blocks.
Oh, yeah, off the rip.
Big shouts out DJ Shadow.
Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate it.
Mr. Luke, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. All right, bro. You have a good evening.
You too, Doc.
One.